Alright, hey sweetheart, it's your squirrel girl speaking, and this is the story of an extraordinary relationship that spans across 3 continents and 4 countries, all of which I'm just gonna prepare in advance, because we both know that redrawing them every single time I'm gonna use them in the story, way too much work. Okay, so we've got America and Germany, and here's Japan. Whoa, that does not look like Hokkaido up there. Oh well, I've always been bad at geography. Last one is Switzerland, tiny country in Europe. Ta-da! So yes, I decided to join in on this super awesome, super duper fun new YouTube fad. Even though I guess technically you're supposed to be a YouTube celebrity already, so you can like tell people about your life, but this one's just gonna be about us. Right, so let's get this party started, shall we? It all started in March 2011, when both of us left our respective home countries to go study abroad in Japan. Now, for me, this was already going to be my 2nd semester at Tokyo International University, whereas for you, it was the first time. During the first week there, we were brought together by magic. And I actually mean this in the most literal sense. Like, the semester before, I would always sit around in the lounge after class with my friends and play Magic the Gathering, because my friend Bram had all these awesome decks. And one day during the new semester you decided to actually join us. So that's what we did. We played Magic. By the way, Bram, if you're watching this, your mirror token says hi. Anyway, the next important thing that happened after we first played cards together was that I received a friend request from you on Facebook, which of course I accepted. So, you and I were off to a really nice and friendly start, and at this point basically I was just expecting another really chill semester of hanging out with my friends and maybe you. But little did I know, only a few days later, on March 11, 2011, the big Tohoku earthquake happened, which I don't think I have to tell you about all the havoc and disaster it's caused, the giant tsunami and the nuclear disaster, and oh, it was a very stressful time. We weren't harmed or anything, but our program still got cancelled, and so both of us had to go home, which was pretty sad. However, in retrospect, as so often in life by the way, there was also some good that came from this unfortunate situation, because our real story didn't actually even begin until after the spring semester of the Japan Studies program got cancelled. I logged onto Facebook one day and I saw that you'd uploaded some really pretty pictures of the cherry blossoms in Japan, which sadly I didn't get to see because my family was really worried about me, so they had me take a flight out of Tokyo pretty much right after the program got cancelled. Whereas you got to stay another week and see the cherry blossoms bloom. And I hit the like button on a bunch of your pictures because they were really nice. And creepy as I am, I also commented on some of them, even though we barely even knew each other at that time. And you gave me a thumbs up on every single one of my comments, which made me feel so good inside. And one day, the chat window popped up, and you started actually talking to me about things like just asking what I was doing after returning home, you know, just small talk. So, just like that, and halfway across the world, we slowly started actually becoming friends, because we started talking a lot online after that. And not just on Facebook anymore, we eventually moved on to like actual chat programs. And we would have these really interesting discussions about ethical topics, and mostly I didn't even really agree with your opinions on things, but I still thought it was really interesting when I found out about, you know, your reasoning for being vegan or shaving your head, and so on. And then we also started talking about more emotionally personal things. We told each other all about our past relationships, and so really quickly we ended up getting really close. In Germany, we don't have spring and fall semesters, we have summer and winter semesters, and my summer semester hadn't even started yet when I got back from Japan, so it was absolutely no problem to just like call the school and tell them I would be coming to school this semester after all. Whereas you were forced to just hang around at your parents' house until fall when you were hoping to go back to Japan. So yeah, you were like hanging around at your parents' house with the kitties while I went to class, and I always took my laptop with me just so I could talk to you. Because at this point I was already like so addicted, so yeah, I would like chat with you all the time. Sometimes it was really hard to get up in the morning because I had spent like half my night talking to you online. So I have to admit that I actually skipped some classes because I was just too tired to get up. Don't worry though, like I still got really good grades and I didn't skip any more classes than possible and necessary. Anyhow, it wasn't just that I was talking to you a lot. After a little while, I also started talking about you quite a bit. I remember one time I was telling my best friend all about you, and she listened politely, and then eventually she told me, "You know you're falling in love with this guy, right?" And I was like, "What? No." Of course I was wrong, and she was right. Then came the day you told me that we wouldn't be able to talk for a few days because you were going down to Los Angeles to see your friends from school. And I was so devastated because I didn't know how to survive. Ironically though, it was precisely this trip of yours that ended up being the key to us getting together. Because on this plane ride, you wrote a love poem to me, which you later read to me on a Skype call. And the poem ended in, "I love you," which had me totally freak out in my head. Of course, I was really happy, but on the other hand, this was turning into another long-distance relationship. Oh my! And I didn't even know yet if I was gonna be able to go join you in Japan for another semester, and then there's also the fact that I frankly don't have the best track record in history, and you knew that better than anyone else at that point, and somehow you still wanted to be with me. And I really wanted to be with you too. So what we ended up doing was we sat down together and we had this really long and serious discussion about what being in a relationship would entail for the both of us. And eventually, you won me over. By May 2011, we had officially started dating and were the new dream team. Even if for the time being only on the internet, but we always knew we'd be together someday. And so it was! We did end up both being allowed to go to Japan for another semester in the fall. And thus started one of the best times of my life. Not just because you and I were finally reunited in love, but also because, thanks to you, we made a lot of really awesome friends in Japan. All of whom I love very much, by the way. Turns out that when it comes to socializing, we make a really good team because you're really good at making friends, for example by giving them your trademark massages. And then I'm pretty good at keeping friends because I would always make plans to go see our friends together. All in all, we just had a really nice and fun time in Japan together with our friends and both of our awesome host families. But it wasn't all just fun and games. We also studied together for Japanese class or for Japanese literature class and all that good stuff. Then after the semester ended in December, we decided to stay another month. So we rented an apartment in Tokyo, right near Shinjuku, so we could like see the Shinjuku skyline from our window. And our apartment was tiny, so we had to like share a single bed. It was still a very good experience in my opinion. Before you even came to Japan this time around, you had signed up for a full year of studying abroad. So you decided to spend the rest of your semester break in Europe with me, Switzerland and Germany more specifically, because my mom had moved to Switzerland to be with her Swiss boyfriend in the meantime. And you got to meet both of them because we spent the first 2 weeks with them. And then we moved to Germany to my grandma's house, and we stayed with her for most of the time that you were there. But we also spent some time with my brother, who taught you all these really hilarious sounding Swabian sentences. And you also got to meet my best friend because she had a birthday right after we arrived, and so we went to surprise visit her. During the time you stayed with me, from roughly the end of January through the beginning of April 2012, I was facing some pretty tough challenges. I had given up my apartment before I left for Japan, so my cat was staying with my brother at the time, but he was gonna move to Munich, and so I really needed to find a new home for my beloved Yuki, which turned out to be incredibly difficult, and I was so worried that I would have to give her away to an animal shelter. Then there was also the fact that my dad wasn't doing too well mentally. He ended up having to be hospitalized, and since there was no one else to take care of him, I would always drive there with you to bring him clothes and such. But then one day, my mom's car that I was borrowing just broke down. It just started smoking while I was driving it. And then on top of all that, I still had 4 papers to write that I'd postponed from the semester before I went to Japan. So all of these factors taken together led to me being very stressed out and constantly worried and anxious and just not a very fun person to be with. But you were there for me, and I'm so grateful for that. After you'd successfully helped me through these very difficult couple of months, the time came for you to go back to Japan for your second semester at TIU. And so we were back to long distance. Since I had already finished taking all of the classes that I needed for my undergrad, I was basically just sitting around at home writing papers. And so one day I came up with an amazing idea. What if I secretly took a plane to Japan and surprised you there without anybody knowing? And at the end of July, that is exactly what I did. I planned it for weeks in advance, and I made absolutely sure that nobody knew I was coming except my host family, whom I would be staying with. I was not gonna have anybody spoil my awesome surprise! Which ended up looking something like this.
What? 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 What's going on? Why are you here? Oh my god! Oh my god!
Success! Visiting you during the new semester was amazing because all your new friends somehow already knew all about me. I felt like such a celebrity. And besides making a bunch of new friends thanks to you again, we also got to hang out with our old friend Lucas. And I was also really glad to be back with my host family for a little bit. So with my heart filled to the brim with all sorts of love, I returned to Germany after about 10 days, and since I arrived right at the end of the semester, you also went home. Now, I finished my bachelor's degree, got myself a job, saved up some money, and went right on over to America in November. Before eventually following you to LA, I met up with you in San Francisco because we were gonna spend Thanksgiving with your best friend and his family. I got to San Francisco airport and I was walking through customs with all my luggage, and all of a sudden you came running and you were like, "Hey love," and I was like, "Whoa!" And your friend was just standing by, really amused, just looking at us like we were crazy people. Which of course we are. Especially you, as you proved the very next day while we were sightseeing in San Francisco with our friends by breaking your foot. Over the course of the next month that we were living in LA together, I mostly just helped you get around and helped you get to class and did the housework for you. And I know I wasn't always the best help that you could wish for. And I'm really sorry for that. But I'm glad that I got to give back at least a little bit of what you gave to me when you were living with me. Also, while in LA, we applied and interviewed for English teaching positions in Japan, since that's where we decided that we wanted to start an actual household together for at least a couple of years before you went to grad school. Other notable adventures include a road trip to Vegas with some of your friends, and several heartwarmingly wonderful reunions with friends from Japan. Once you'd also finished your bachelor's degree at the very end of December, we flew up to Chicago, where we spent a few days with your parents before they took us home with them to their new house, and I got to meet the kitties. One morning during the next few weeks that we stayed with your parents, you told me that you'd received an email that said you didn't get the job in Japan. Turned out that I actually did. Leave it to the non-native speaker to teach people English good. So the maximum time of stay on my tourist visa ran out, and I went back to Germany/Switzerland to prepare for Japan. Which basically brings us to now. I'm over here packing because I'll be leaving tomorrow, while you keep job hunting online and hoping that you'll be able to follow me soon. And we can finally end up living together like the characters in any half-decent love story should. And I know that eventually we will, whether in Japan, the United States, or Germany, or Switzerland, or elsewhere. I hope that we'll continue to travel the world together, all around the globe. Except for the cold places, of course. I hope that we'll continue to laugh together and cry together, and everything in between. Every single night before I fall asleep, I lay in bed and I thank God for having brought you my way, to teach me about kindness, compassion, and most of all, love.